Recording is in progress. Um, there we go. Howdy, y'all. This is Platoon. Evenings, weekends, Echo Platoon, week 14, day 2. We're doing Django crud. You should know how to read and edit, or read and update, read and put, whatever you want to call it. Today, we're going to create and delete. Before today, you could only rue. Now you will be able to crud. Um, we got some starter code. The application's basically as you left it yesterday. Something I've noticed is end of day 8 is actually everything we'll be adding today, I believe. So if I don't add any new stuff, don't worry too much about it, but you should be able to follow along. Um, but this is the Pokemon app you know and love, you've been working with. Uh, so reading and updating. Reading is the easiest thing. Most anyone can create a website or a you know web application that you can read from, and that's fine and dandy. But uh, writing a book and then just having people not be able to interact with it is not like that difficult. Is not that useful. That's basically just putting out a blog. We want users to be able to interact with the site, so creating is important, perhaps the most important. Deleting is fine. Updating is useful as well, but reading and creating, I think, are probably the two most important things your app needs to do at a bare minimum. So, and we've done this kind of stuff before, but now we're going to do it in Django. And so, when we create something, we are technically posting something new to our database. That is what posting is. With that said, any type of create behavior should correlate with the post request method. We're going to add a post request to Pokemon app views.py and add this post behavior to our all Pokemon class. So to interact with our app, we're going to need an endpoint. We're going to need the API, basically handler for it. I believe we should already have. Oh wait, no, that's right. Because we have a path that basically takes in any type of argument. It doesn't need to be specified to be a get, post, put, delete at this level. We instead in our views are going to decide what we do depending on what's coming in. There are so many notes. This is so difficult to read. Anyways, so within our all Pokemon class, we have a get request. And what we're doing today is putting this post request in here. If you pull down day 8 branch, this is what you're going to see anyways. So you don't really need to put that in here, but this is telling us to add that to our class. What this is going to do, oh goodness, great, that's too much. Create a variable, new Pokemon. We are going to create using, this is our ORM for Django here. We are going to create a new object built out of the request data. This is a simple, easy way to make our endpoint. Well, this isn't technically an endpoint. I'd call this the handler. This is going to let our handler, using Quargs, which is cool Python stuff, just basically take in all of the keys and values and map them to this. So this is going to be a create request object built out of the JSON that is received. It saves it in the database, full clean, and then we are going to load it and return it in the response. We could probably stop right here. That creates the Pokemon in the database, but a nice clean API returns to you what it is you what you did. So the user could see that response, which is a good thing, because if you're just plugging in data into an API, you're not always sure that it's working the way you kind of want it to. You just have to kind of either assume it worked or run another get request to see the new data, and that's extra steps. That's dumb. Let's give the user back something important for them to know so that when they put in a request, it makes sense, right? With that, now that we have a flexible and well-constructed API to view to create a Pokemon, we can test it with Postman by sending a post request to this. Assuming you have up-downed your Docker Compose, down up to your Docker Compose, migrated your Django migrations, and then started the server, which I have done here, this ought to be running. I know y'all have probably been using Postman. I think I've showed you Insomnia before. Have I showed y'all Insomnia before? So use what you want. There are a lot of tools out there. None are better than any others. However, Instructor Jordan likes the look of Insomnia. I think it's not cluttered with a bunch of junk. Postman's got a lot of different buttons with different tabs. I don't think it's got a great UI. It does do everything you need it to do, and then some. Anything you could ever want it to do. Insomnia is pretty easy to work with. I like it because I never have to reteach myself how to use it. It looks kind of like every other Chrome application. This looks like VS Code in a lot of ways. So what I do is over here on the left, within an environment, you can set all kinds of environments, have different folders. But I just create requests on this side and I name them. For the post request that it wants us to create, it wants us to send a post request to here. So I put that URL in Insomnia right here. If I were to, you know what, I'll just show you how I'll do it actually. In case any of you feel like downloading this and wanting to be cool like me, you just create a new HTTP request. It's called new request. You can name it anything you want. We're going to call it like create Geodude. Doesn't super matter. And then we're going to paste in the URL that we want it to go to, which is that. This is going to be a post request. You need to make sure it's a post request there. It's going to reflect that over here. And then you have everything you could want to add to this post request all right here. All easy peasy, easy to get. I like this because you can put your tokens in here. When we get to that point, we'll be doing auth very soon. You can do a preview of the full daggum thing. But the body, this is a body of whatever you want to give it. Let's give it JSON because that's 99% of what we're going to be interacting with. And then it just wants to receive some JSON. This, by the way, is what the data object should look like. This is JSON that Quargs will interpret into a dictionary to create an instance out of it. So key name, key level, description captured, and then we got our values here. Nothing too crazy there. Oftentimes, you see why these are red here? These are red because this is a JSON interpreter, and JSON is not JavaScript. As much as it feels like it's a JavaScript object, it's not JavaScript. So oftentimes, quotes and line skips make it very mad. So this is not a Insomnia thing. This is a JSON thing. JSON does not like comments. But there. So we've done what it's asked me to do. I've created this data object that should map pretty well to the Pokemon class that we've created. It's a post request and it's going here to my running server. Let's see what happens. Send. So here's my requests. Here's what I'm sending it. And then here on the right is what I get back. And we can look at every cool thing, you know, that comes back with it. But check out this preview. It gave us this back. Why did it give us this back?
Because we told it to.
Because we told it to. Right here. We respond with the new Pokemon. See how useful that is? Do we need that? No, we don't need that. We wouldn't have to do that if we didn't want to. We could just send another one and get nothing back. Oh, well, I think I've messed it up. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I need that one. Or maybe I need to delete the one I created ahead of time. No. I've gotten too excited, sorry. I think the issue here is that I've created a duplicate. But anyways, as you saw ahead of time, if you get nothing back, that's like a, okay, cool, did you get my order? It'd be like door dashing an order. We're putting an order, just going up to McDonald's and saying, hey, here's my order. You want something back. You want to see that you received it, right? You don't want to have to go in and say, hey, you got my order right? And they say, yeah, of course. Why would you assume that? Cereal. Oh, that bork up the serializer, that's what's going on. Yeah. I'm not fighting with all that right now. But the point is made. A response of some type is better. Oh yeah, that's what's going on, huh? So I bet if I just did that, we'd probably be okay, huh? Oh, it doesn't like that at all. Someday I'm gonna learn to ahead of time experiment with the things I want to show off in class. Oh my goodness. All right. Is it completely broken? No, it's not. Anyways, you got to return something back where the users aren't gonna be happy. Django might be. You know what? What might be happening here is I think Django requires us to give a return back because a lot of web application builders, and this is something I should probably know better, but in any kind of framework, these API building frameworks are not going to let you not give the user something back. You could work your way around giving them nothing back, but these functions are being called by a lot of different tools. And if they don't have a response, you're going to break something. That's why uh, that response message was not very useful because we're breaking a lot of internal Django things. I wonder if this will run. One last try. Man, it really doesn't like that. All right, I don't want to play with it. Yeah. Oh, you were asking if the response came from the serializer. Yeah, I think you're right. Give me a second. Well, actually, do we even have serializer set up for this? Wouldn't that be here? I guess it just returns J. Oh. It is serializing the JSON data here. As far as why we're required to do that, I think Django demands it back, demands some serialized data back. Don't want you to get too into that. Anyhow, so as with anything we're doing, we're going to be adding tests to this. So the test that you would create to verify this would basically be putting in the post request just like we had done, and then comparing by getting that selected Pokemon, comparing their data together. So your response is going to be making a post request just like we done did, content type application JSON. So notice this is basically the exact same thing. I say basically because it is, as making a post request of this JSON data. Then, oh, here's a subtest. We do want a 200 back. And then setting a new Pokemon, self client get, we are going to get and reverse, select a Pokemon. We're taking the last of all the Pokemon, and Arg's Geodude. We're making a get request for the Geodude. Then we're going to connect them, compare them together. Or sorry, we're not comparing them together. We're verifying it's there. We could compare them, but we put it in this data, we verify we got a 200, and then we pull that data out and verify it is indeed in there. I would update this test because if there was already a geodude in the database and you try to add another one, that wouldn't really be a good test, right? If you had two geodudes and you tried to add a third, this test would not really tell you for certain that you did get one. If the last thing input was another geodude. So this test is fine, assuming the tests don't run another geodude in there. Does that make sense, y'all? I know I kind of stumbled over that a little bit. I would rather pull the ID from the response and then compare the ID to one that is in there because that's kind of more important. I would want to verify this primary key exists on a geodude in the database because this is the primary key we received when we created a geodude. But this is fine for now. Delete. Deleting is very simple. You just send a delete request with a primary key or something to look up the instance that you're trying to get rid of. Deleting an item from database is surprisingly simple. We could utilize the already established selected Pokemon view to get a Pokemon instance and then call the delete method. So just like usual, we can pull a single Pokemon out. Any way we do that now, we can still do that, except we're going to run a delete request to the database. That should still be in here. So in the selected Pokemon class, we're getting Pokemon by their ID. And here's a delete request. So just like you would normally get one, a get and a delete are almost the same thing building wise. You don't really need anything beyond the ID and a command. This goes and gets the Pokemon based off its ID. This goes and gets the Pokemon and then deletes it. It doesn't return it back to you. Instead, we're going to give a response. Pokemon name was deleted because that's a lot more useful of a response, right? If I sent a delete request in and it gave me back the Pokemon like when I posted it, that'd be extremely confusing. A response message of this thing that you wanted to delete is deleted is significantly more useful, right? That is not confusing. That's not going to make me think that I hit the wrong endpoint or sent the wrong request. So get a Pokemon from the database, easy peasy. Grab the Pokemon's name before deleting to utilize in the response message. You could do that. You could probably, if you wanted to be fancy, just do that instead. Oh, wait, but we're deleting it. That might be a problem. Actually, yeah, okay, that's fair. Do it that way. I always like to save lines. So we grab it for the simple purpose of building out this string here. Delete the instance with a dot delete invocation, invoke it, easy peasy. And then I cannot double click on this thing. I'm so out of my element here. Delete. Response. Pokemon name was deleted. Let's see if that works using this fancy delete request that I've set up ahead of time. But there's no magic here. Just like last time, I created this HTTP request, set it to delete, pointing it exactly where I want it to go. Multiple objects return. Oh, I know what's happening. So I created a bunch of geodudes, and I think that's causing us some issues. Another reason why, that kind of points out an issue with our endpoint, right? This is making an assumption that, oh wait, what's going on here? No, that should work. This delete request is no good though. Let's dig into this. So delete is going to get a Pokemon by an ID. We did not give it an ID, did we, in our delete request? So That's an issue with the curriculum, y'all. I thought I went over this quickly, but not, I guess I went over this a little too quickly ahead of time. What's happening here is we are giving it just Geodude, which is a collective, and then we're trying to delete that collective. This endpoint is expecting an ID. I didn't give it no ID. I just gave it a name. So, I don't know. Was the primary key 7, I think? Yeah, it sure was. I said 7. It was 8 because up 1. There were 7 of them created. 8 would be the next iterator. So Geodude was deleted. Sorry for the confusion there, but that doesn't even make sense in the delete. For this to work, that would never work. You would yeah, I don't like this. So it's expecting us to find a single Pokemon called Geodude, assuming there are no other Geodudes, and it will fire off. That's a major issue with this endpoint. It should figure out the ID of the Pokemon because that's more useful. If you're ever going to have delete requests or get requests or really any kind of request, and it's targeting a non-unique field, you're going to have issues like this. Because, oh, go ahead.
All right, I was going to ask, would it help to put the ID in, like where it says Pokemon equals self.get underscore Pokemon? If we put the 8 there, would that work?
Where are you saying?
In the first line, Pokemon equals self.get underscore Pokemon 8. Or no?
You're saying here in this endpoint?
Yeah, like if we put that in the VS Code.
Yeah, I mean that would get it right. But then it would always delete primary key 8.
I think it would have to be ID equals ID, right?
No, because the ID is already being created as a variable right here. Am I wrong? No, I think
I thought I saw someone do that the other day, but maybe I was crazy.
no, you're not crazy. It probably defaults to ID. If you want to, because get self.get Pokemon could potentially take multiple arguments. And remember in Python, we can pass things in like by establishing it, you know, you can do things like this or whatever you want, you know. So ID equals ID is not wrong. It's just that this get Pokemon function is assuming the first argument passed to it is ID. Putting ID equals ID is just saying it's saying I know you expect ID as your first argument, but also even if you didn't, ID is equal to this ID that I'm handing you. So that's fine. Yeah, if we did set this to 8, this would not work right now. Because there's not a number 8, but if we'll see if it reuses numbers actually. So look at this. I've created a new Pokemon and the primary key is now 9. So if I wanted to delete number 9, I could hand it this, right? And that would be fine. But really the right answer is in here to delete the Pokemon that I want it. Oh, sorry, to delete the Pokemon that I want it to get. So we'll do it here. Put this back to ID because this endpoint, this handler here is no, okay, so like, I'm gonna talking myself into a circle. This is the endpoint we're hitting. We are hitting the, sorry, Pokemon slash some argument URL. We know that whatever comes in next via string or ID, we're going to say that's the ID. Sorry, integer or string, doesn't matter what it is, that is ID. So that takes us to the selected Pokemon class, the view we set up, the selected Pokemon class as a view, which is right here. And that class is an API view, blah, blah, blah. But it knows, hey, whatever I got, that integer or that string, that is ID. So it knows it can go get a Pokemon based off of that ID. The issue with we're basically trying to show you that an endpoint can be either a string or an integer, and it'll still work. For this particular application, this is assuming you never have duplicates of a Pokemon, which that's not, I don't know. You get more than one of each type, right? Like, am I the only one who did that? You only just want one of each? You got to catch them all. That means like every one of them, not just 450, right? Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? So we can fetch, we can get them by their name, but I think get will also break if there's two Geodudes in there, because we're looking at the database and we're saying, hey, give me Pokemon with this name or give me the Pokemon with this ID. I like ID because, and it depends on the way you're looking at this. If we're creating Pokemon, that's not the Pokédex. The Pokédex would only have one of each type, right? This is like your stash of Pokemon. So if I go catch like 3 Pikachus, I immediately can't go search for them in my Pokemon app based off of their name because I didn't name them different things. That's why ID is better. If we're going to be running deletes based off of their name, we have to ensure that name is unique. So as cool as it is to have a string or an integer, variable like URI, we really need to shore up ourselves by ensuring that these names are unique. We can't have duplicate names, or else we're going to be breaking these endpoints that when they go to the database and they fetch, they're expecting one of one type of Pokemon, they're getting multiple back. That's going to break these endpoints. So that there's a few different ways to kind of shore ourselves up here. The best way, I think, is if I'm going to be deleting a Pokemon in a database that could have multiple of the same type, I should be doing it by the ID. Does that make sense? So number 9 was deleted because remember we created. This is stuff I can replicate. Primary key was 10 on that one. I create 8 more or whatever. Yeah, we're up to primary key 18. I can delete 18, but I can't delete Geodude because the database doesn't know which one it wants me to delete. It's just going to say, hey, you called to delete one and I found a bunch. That's what that error is. Read it one more time. Multiple objects returned, right? Get returned more than one Pokemon. It returned 14. It's not going to delete all 14 because we didn't say delete all or something like that. Does that make sense? The purpose of this lesson was not to show you the issue with deleting that way, but I think it's important to talk about. Because what we actually did here is not very complicated, right? But this should match up to an ID of a Pokemon. I mean, I think this will work if I rep the database down and put it back up, and there's only one Geodude in my database, but we're not going to do that. Our test here. Can y'all, someone speak up? Say something, please.
Yes.
Cool. This headset piece, this headphone, runs out of power in under an hour, and this one lasts 8 hours. I'm so frustrated. Did an update, and now it's just ruined my. You can't understand how much I like these things. Tests and test views. After every test, the database resets back to only having a fixture data. We can call test 007 where the test creates Geodude and then deletes it. So for this test, In this vacuum, it should be just fine because the database is empty. It creates a Pokemon, and then oh, sorry. Here it's calling test 007 create a Pokemon, which is this test up here. That Geodude Pokemon is still created while the tests are running. So this test down here would delete that one. I don't love tests that cascade fail other tests. I think it's major red herrings. This is fine if you want to, right? But think about this. If I feed this test bad data, like I take the level out, which it really needs, and test 7 fails, well, then test 8 fails also. So while that makes logical sense, because if I didn't create the Pokemon, I should fail test 7. I can't delete it, so I fail test 8. But did I fail test 8 because my delete doesn't work? I don't like that. I want my tests to be in a vacuum so that if I break one thing, I fail one test. That's not everyone's opinion. Some disagree with me. But when I'm changing something, I don't want to see 17 tests fail because which one is the real problem? Is it the first one that ran? Maybe. Sometimes your tests don't always run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sometimes you have them in a bunch of different folders and they're running in the same time. So that's I'm not going to say like Code Platoon recommends your tests don't cascade fail. I'm saying, hey y'all, I've built stuff before for myself and made a bunch of tests, and I really hated cascading my tests as failures. If I don't create a Pokemon up here, I would like to try and create another one down here as well to test this one specific thing. For every endpoint, it would be nice to have one specific test that checks that, and subtests within it that check the edge cases, things like that. Does that make sense? Does someone disagree? It's totally okay to disagree because I'd like to hear a good argument for it. One of the instructors is going to watch my video and call me an idiot. That's really it. Very short lecture, but I glad I got to talk about some like fundamental building kind of things, philosophy. For your thing today. Actually, you know what? This lecture is over. I'm going to stop recording, then I'll talk to you guys. I guess before we move on, any questions about creating or deleting before I kill it? Too bad.